Welcome to Same Spit, Different Face TV. Well, my opinions is facts, and if you don't like my opinions, you can start your own podcast. And it's free. So don't forget to spit on the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification. If you want to hear about YFN LUCCI coming home soon, I need you to hit this like button. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Now, Spit Squad, YFN LUCCI is finna be coming home soon. And it's a lot of different things that came out between this YFN LUCCI case and the Young Thug case, YSL RICO trial. And it was weird to me that, the YFN case basically went under the radar. YFN LUCCI was given a great plea deal. If I'm not mistaken, on his plea deal, he don't get any probation. But then when you look at the Young Thug, he got 15 years probation. They wanted him to do 45 years, all that stuff, right? So I figured it was two things. Now, we all know the rumor that Fonnie Willis was messing with Donovan Nut Thomas. She basically promised Donovan family that she would get justice and all of this and that, right? So when you look at that situation, that's just going to play out how it play out. And I think she got justice to some extent. But if you Donovan Nut Thomas mom and you looking at this situation, you want Thug to get life. You want him to be in there for life. And so for the longest, I've been wondering, like, man, why didn't YFN LUCCI get more time, or why wasn't they more on his top like they was on Young Thug's? Pause. But I think about it like this. Fonnie Willis could have possibly had that tie to YFN LUCCI through Donovan Nut Thomas. But the real thing I just thought about, she could have looked at Young Thug as a bully. She could have looked at it as like, YFN LUCCI was cool. He was laying back and he was basically just trying to protect himself. He was making the best out of a bad situation. So when you look at it, when YFN LUCCI was at the mall, one of Young Thug alleged homies stood up on his car and posted and took a picture standing on his car or whatever. Now, what would have happened if he would have came out the mall and that guy was standing on his car? We don't know. Then we look at the YFN LUCCI situation. His mama car was his mama house was shot up. And then a couple of other things ended up happening, and then Donovan Nut Thomas got hit up. So in my personal opinion, now just looking at, and I literally just thought about this, Fonnie Willis could have just looked at the situation where, yeah, YFN LUCCI is not what do you call it? He's not a victim in this because he participated, but also at the same time, she could look at him as a victim and say, well, if Young Thug wouldn't have been saying these things about him, he wouldn't have said nothing back. If Young Thug wouldn't have had somebody stand on top of his car, he wouldn't have responded to that. If his mother house wasn't shot up, he wouldn't have responded to that. So I think when Fonnie look at this, and especially if she had ties to Donovan Nut Thomas, that means she would have had ties to YFN LUCCI, and she probably would have been hearing things behind the thing like, yeah, man, Thug doing this and Thug doing that and Thug telling these people this and Thug telling these people that. And obviously she can't bring the thing down because it's coming from Donovan. But once he died, you get somebody like YSL Woody to start talking, and other people, they look at it from that standpoint of, okay, now we got it. Now, the real thing about this case is that this case should have never happened, and I don't know how Young Thug will possibly be able to appeal this or file some type of lawsuit or something like that, because the original DA didn't even want to file this case. The original DA before Fonnie Willis said it wasn't enough evidence to do anything about this. And I think Fonnie Willis was actually too gun-ho about this situation. I think if she would have just sat back for a little while, maybe another year or two, she probably would have had something, quote unquote, a smoking gun, or she probably would have had something happen that she could have pent to him dead to right. Now, I'm not saying I'm looking for that to happen, but I'm saying that I think she was just too thirsty to make something happen. And one thing about the feds, when the feds investigate you, they sit on you, they let you do what you got to do for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, 7, 8 years, especially if it's not a lot of bodies popping up, and they just collect that evidence. So when they come and get you, they know for sure they got everything they need, and there's no way you can wiggle out of it. Now, somebody with the type of influence and money that Young Thug got, obviously he's going to be able to have the best lawyer, which he did with Brian Steele. So when you get in court with only 2 years of investigation, and well, not 2 years, because it spanned from like 2015, but none of the stuff actually really involves Young Thug. It's essentially just hearsay, especially when YSL Woody get on the stand and say I lied about everything, right? So when you look at it from that standpoint, if they let it span over a few more years, who know what else they can probably get him on. And maybe they wouldn't have been able to get him on like the body, but maybe they would have got him on some drugs, or maybe they would have got him on the gun with a body too. Fonnie tried to rush it because she was billing her campaign on being tough on crime, and she wanted to have this in court, and she wanted to have it over with before re-election. And let's just be honest, her goal was accomplished. She was able to be re-elected based off of the things that she was doing up under this case. So I look at this case a little bit different now, just from that standpoint, because I always wondered like why YFN Lucci is not getting as much criticism from Fonnie as Young Thug is. And like I just said, one of the reasons could be because she allegedly was with Donovan Nut Thomas, or maybe they wasn't together romantically and they was just friends and he was confiding in her every once in a while, whatever that may be. But the real conversation to it could be is that she felt like he was a bully. Now, the one thing I don't like is that they both had RICO gang charges. They both had a body inside of their situation, but she made in her stipulation where Young Thug had to be out of Atlanta for a certain amount of time. They was asking for like 45 years in jail, but then they just let him walk away with basically no consequences. 3.5 years is not really consequences if you saying he's a detriment to society, all this type of stuff. But if you want more hip-hop updates and celebrity news, hit the subscribe button. Check out my original Chicago hood movie in the end screen, No Time to Play Fair.